Children, when you see a plant and when you see an animal, we see a lot of difference between the two. For example, plants cannot move. Animals, they can move. Plants cannot communicate like us. Animals can communicate. So on and so forth, we see a lot of difference between plants and animals. Why are we so different? We are so different because mainly the components that are building us are different. A cell that belongs to a plant will be something different than the cell that belongs to an animal. This, children, is a typical animal cell and this one is a typical plant cell. So where is the difference actually lying is what we are going to understand in today's lecture. So there are some key differences between an animal cell and plant cell. For example, if you see in animal cell, you are just noticing one covering over the entire cell. There are no double membranes here, there is just one single covering over here. Can you see another covering? No, you cannot. But if you move on towards the plant cell, you will see that there are two coverings to a plant cell, which means that plant cell is having an extra layer of protection while animal cell is sufficient with only one. So what exactly are these membranes that we are talking about? Basically, this membrane, the outermost membrane in a plant cell is called, in an animal cell is called a cell membrane. Now this cell membrane is also present in the plant cell, but in a plant cell this is the second membrane. We see that there is an additional membrane attached to the plant cell which comes right before the cell membrane. That additional membrane is called my cell wall. It is the cell wall. So the key difference, the very first difference between an animal cell and a plant cell is that a plant cell will have a cell wall while an animal cell will not have a cell wall. One difference. Second, there are more differences between plant cell and animal cell. I have not drawn the plant cell completely because a lot of things are common to these. Now see, this particular structure that you are seeing right here, this particular structure is called a centriole. Now centrioles are specific to animal cells. Centrioles are such organelles which contribute in cell division. They form aster rays and spindle fibers which help in the splitting of chromosomes. So centrioles are distinct and specific to animal cells. They are not found in plant cell. In plant cell also during cell formation, cell division, spindle formation is compulsory. But this spindle formation takes place anyway even in the absence of centrioles. Centrioles are not required in plant cell for the formation of spindle fibers, but in the at the time of division, centriole are very significant in the case of animal cells because they are the ones who are forming the spindle fibers. Now what exactly are spindle fibers? Now see, we have such chromosomes in a cell. Now when a cell is dividing, these chromosomes need to be divided into half. Now there are spindle fibers which attach themselves to this middle portion of the chromosome which is called the centromere, and they separate the chromosomes into two halves. This separation is done by spindle fibers, and these spindle fibers are produced using these centrioles in animal cell while they are produced in the plant cell without the presence of centrioles. So animal cells will have centrioles, plant cell will not have centrioles. On the other hand, you see this big object that is placed in the middle of a plant cell. This big object is known as a vacuole. Now plant cells, they usually have a very large central vacuoles. In an animal cells, the vacuoles will either be absent or even if they are present, they will be very small and very few in number. That is one main difference. Now why is this difference coming? The reason is that, children, plants are supposed to synthesize food. Whenever they are synthesizing food, they are using some of it. But there is always something that is left to be stored. So they ultimately are the reservoirs of all the energy that is being produced on the planet Earth in the form of chemical food. So whatever food they are synthesizing, some part of it they'll use and some part they'll store into the vacuoles. That is why they have large central vacuoles in plants. If you see in an animal cell, your nucleus, this particular portion, your nucleus is in the center of the animal cell, while if you see your nucleus is at the periphery in the plant cell. Why? Because your central position is occupied by the vacuole in a plant cell and your central position is occupied by the nucleus in the absence of an vacuole in animal cells. So another distinction between the two is that in animal cells your central nucleus is present, whereas in plant cell you have a central vacuole, therefore your nucleus gets pushed onto the periphery. These are some of the basic differences between a plant cell and an animal cell. Let us notice down. The very first difference that we see is that outer membrane of an animal cell is a cell membrane, while in a plant cell, outer membrane of a plant cell is a cell wall. Now plants will have a cell membrane, but cell wall will be the outermost membrane and cell membrane will be the second membrane. Then animal cell will have small or no vacuole. On the other hand, plant cells will have a large central vacuole. Understood? Now, fifth point. In animal cell, the nucleus will be in the center. Nucleus is central. Then in plant cells, the nucleus will be at the periphery. Understood? One more thing, plant cells do not have centrioles, while animal cells they have centrioles. So these are some of the basic differences between a plant cell and an animal cell. Now the cell wall has a special function in plant cell. Cell membranes have a specific function in an animal cell. The cell membrane is made up of something else. The cell wall is made up of something else. So we will get into the details of what is made up of what and what performs what function in the cell in the very next lecture.